even after knowing that in Africa we preach for 3 hours or several, it's still safe to have an African with a mic. I think that's a risky thing to do, especially for your pastor, knowing that I might go for several hours. So I pray that I don't. My Spokane mom, Marie, for those who know her, she told me to say something about the chicken. And the chicken being so special to the Africans, because when you go to visit, if you go to visit an African home or family, for that matter, and they don't butcher your chicken, a live chicken that you saw being chased, and then they butcher it and prepare for you, that chicken, you're not welcome. If they give you beef, fish, or any other kind of meat, that's not a welcome. They have to butcher a live chicken for you. That means you're welcome. So if you come to my place and I don't butcher the chicken for you, think about packing and leaving, because you're not welcome. I won't say it in words, but my actions will just be speaking louder for those who understand the culture. When Pastor asked me to come over here and share with you guys the message, and like he said in his introduction, that the Lord has been impressing on his heart to talk going back to the Gospels. And you know, when you speak about going back to the Gospels, it's the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are the Gospels we have in the Bible. And when you read most of the chapters there, they're talking about the ministry of Jesus on the face of the earth and what exactly he did and some of the miracles and the things that he was able to do. But in most of the endings of those Gospels, the books, you'll read that Jesus gave a mandate to the church that will come after him, after the ministry. And he said, the things that I've done for those who will come after me, they are going to do even greater things than what I've done. And we are the people Jesus was talking about. We are the very people, even in John 17:17, Jesus prayed and said, Father, I pray that they will have unity just like you and I, we are one. I pray that they have that oneness. In Mark, when it comes to the ending of it, he's talking in Mark 16, he says, these things that I'm doing and greater works are you going to do. What greater works can we do as Christians when Jesus, the stories we've read, the things he did, he even raised the dead? That's a very big challenge for most of us. I've been a person who have been in the ministry, I can say, all my life, because I grew up in a Christian family, but I was running away from the call. For those who know my testimony, I ran away from the call of God for 17 years. I didn't live a Christian life. But when Jesus got hold of me in high school, I've never looked back and regretted. Everything I've seen him do in my life, I've really been thankful. It doesn't mean that it has been a smooth road or a smooth sailing. There are times when, even like in the Bible, you read people seeing miracles and all of a sudden they decide to go back. I've had those moments myself where I've seen miracles, I've seen the power of God move, but then the next challenge that I face, it challenges me, and I even come close to questioning if God is real. And if you don't do that, you're perfect, and maybe you have a special gift. And we do have people who don't question. But it doesn't mean that they're perfect. It just means maybe they have a special gifting that God has gifted them with. My preaching or my speaking this morning is, I'm going to try and discuss a topic that I have asked God, if there are things around the world in the church that are not being said, I've asked God to give me the mandate to say those things. Maybe some others are not saying them because they don't have the experience, or maybe they're avoiding to say them because they don't want to lose their position or anything. I just said, God, if there is something the church is missing and you want us to understand or even talk about it, we don't have to understand it. We don't have to know the answers to everything, but at least something has to be said about it. I want to be one of the people you choose to do that. And some of the things that I'm sharing this morning is from life experience. I was, early this year, I was in Uganda. Uganda is a neighboring country to Kenya. And for those of you who know the history of East Africa or Africa and know a little bit about Uganda, Uganda has been a nation that has suffered a lot more than Kenya when it comes to civil war. They had fights. They have had dictators in that country. Idi Amin, the very famous dictator that is known around the world, ruled that nation. And during his tenure, during his time of rulership, many people died. We had even the physically disabled people where he would gather them in big trucks and go dump them in an ocean or somewhere to kill them. These people have suffered. Uganda, there was a time that Uganda was the highest ranking in HIV/AIDS infections in the world. And people died. A lot of people have died. I went to an area, a friend of mine from Clarkston sent me in an area with a message, or actually things that he wanted delivered in that area. And I went there. Some of you have watched movies or shows, The Walking Dead. You know, it's a story to you. But to this place, when you go there, you literally see the walking dead. People are dying left and right. You can be walking down the street and somebody falls there, dies instantly because of an illness or because of hunger. And this is exactly what I faced when I went there. And I said, in Kenya we complain, but these people have it more worse than Kenya. I was in a service, and that's where this message came. I was in a church service, a lady pastor, full of power of the Holy Spirit, and she's preaching. She has faced a lot of challenges. She doesn't have a large building like this. It's her own house with different rooms. So they have people in this room, another group of people in this room, here. So in several rooms, they have people, but the church service has to go on and everybody has to hear the message. So she will stand at the door of the one room and talk to the people. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Then go over here and say, I'm saying this, and then turn around to all those rooms and make sure everybody is hearing the message. And they gave me a chance to speak, and I didn't know what to do, because I'm used to standing in front of one congregation, not little pockets here and there. She has it down packed. She understands how to do it. I don't. And I said, God, what do I do here? And they don't have a PA system like you do have here, a very wonderful sound system. And there I was. And a lady walked to me and said, you are a servant of God, but I have a very big problem that I've never been able to solve. And even at this particular moment, I'm even questioning whether God is there. And I said, that's it. That's the message. There are some questions or some problems people are facing that we don't have answers. The Bible, we like to tell people the Bible has all the answers. And we preach that the Bible has the answers. Even today, I know in the face of the opposition, the Christian church will wake up and say, God has all the answers. But what do you tell somebody who has prayed for years for a certain situation and they are not receiving answers? Or somebody who did pray and asked for God to do a miracle or something in the life of a loved one, and that answer didn't come the way they expected. Maybe it was an illness. They needed to see a healing, and the healing never happened. Even worse, the person died. What do you do? What do you tell them? What do you tell somebody who has been born and has some issue that they will live with it for the rest of their lives? No medical capability will ever change that. It will stay that way. And yet, we are the messengers of the message that Jesus is the answer to all our problems. Are we going to be the people who will say just good cliche messages and leave it at that? Or are we really going to address the issues the way they are supposed to be addressed? I asked myself, when this lady walked to me and said, I have waited for years to see grandkids. I don't have grandkids. I have 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy. But even some of them are married, some of them are not. But I'm waiting to see a grandkid. I'm getting older, and I don't see them. And I asked her, what is the problem? Because really, for you to have grandkids, they just have to make babies for those who are married. And even we do have some who are not married and they make babies. So what is the issue? And she looked at me and said, I don't know. Because all my 5 kids, they were born, but they were born with an abnormality. I didn't notice until they became mature, and when they were of age to start giving birth, the doctor said their issues cannot be corrected in any way, form, or shape. They can't be identified as women or men per se. They have both. And there is the issue, 5 of them. What do you tell the lady? Another one came to me and said, it was like a bombardment of these issues coming. And one of them came and said, you know, I know you pray for these people, but I have this issue. I have a husband who is not a good husband. He has other women. But yet, he comes to me and says, he still loves me, I'm his wife, and he wouldn't live without me. And yet, he's even asking me, if I don't like his lifestyle, he's willing to pay other guys to come and be with me so that we can be even and continue to live this way. I was like, this is a mess. How do you do? And she's like, I've been faithful. I've never tried to even think that we'll never be together, but I'm getting to the point close to calling it quits. But I know God hasn't told me to quit. What do I do? And I said, this is tough. I was shaken. You know, I pulled out all the scriptures I know, and I was, you know, they were going through my head. And I was ready to download the scriptures that I know that can answer those questions. But the Lord stopped me and said, no, that's not the answer. I said, okay, Lord, if it's not the answer, I know you are a good God. You can do miracles. You've done miracles. I've seen, even for me being alive today, God, it's a miracle. This is no bigger problem to you. You can do this. You can change this situation. You can turn it around. This lady can have grandkids, no problem. And this other one, the husband can be changed instantly. With your permission, it can happen. Lord, why are you stopping me from addressing it in such a manner? And he said, listen. And I waited. I'm still waiting for answers. I made the trip back to the States. I'm still waiting, God, to tell me exactly what should I tell them. But until the other day when Pastor was talking to me, and I happened to be talking to another friend of mine, actually 2 friends. One of them has been a very Bible-based Bible-believing person, very Christian-oriented, very powerful. She's a prophetic gifting you can ever have in your church. She can see anything that you need to be prayed for, and she will tell you exactly how it's going to happen. But she was facing an issue herself, and up to today she still doesn't have the answer. Then another one, they have a son who has had issues too, and so they don't see answers coming, and I talked to them. And while I was visiting with them, in the midst of our conversation is when the Lord spoke to me and said, okay, what you are dealing with is not the issue of asking people to pray in faith because they are lacking faith or they don't have greater faith or they need faith. It's not that. Because some people who have these problems, they have the faith. Then he told me it's not an issue of persistence in prayer because some of them have persisted in prayer for years. Just like the man at the pool of Bethesda who waited for 38 years to see a miracle, some of them have gone beyond 38 years. It is not like a lady who was having the issue of blood for 12 years, and then when she knew that if she can just get to Jesus and touch the hem of his garment, her situation will be solved. For 12 years, some of them have had the issues for more than 12 years, like a lady with 5 kids, no grandkids. The issue, she's in her late 60s. The oldest kid is in the mid-40s. And so for over 40 years, she has been watching, and she didn't know the kids had these issues. I stood there, I said, I've preached. Half of my life I've been preaching, because I started preaching at the age of 17. Now some of you are thinking, how old is he? 17, let's add up the math. You will not get it. Because I just threw the 17 number, maybe even there. Really, I looked at the situation and I said, this is very complicated cases that the church is failing to deal with. And we would like, when we have some issues, we want to pray for people. And when we do pray and the answer is not coming, we even pester them with other, Christian verses. It becomes like cliches. They're not even powerful messages anymore. It just becomes like soothing over the issue and making them feel good and hear what they want to hear, and there is no power in the church. And I'm not talking about the power being in the church is the answer. I'm talking about us talking what really needs to be said. See, the other day, I just woke up. I had a feeling that something is being communicated to me, and I didn't know what. And here comes a message. My sister calls me from Texas and says, Michael, pray for us. In this area, we've had a shooting. And in a school. It's not a new thing. It has been ongoing where there is shooting in the school now. And even our government and the people and the church leaders and even the parents and the communities cannot find answers. What do we do with that? I remember I was speaking in Silver Valley at one time in Idaho, and the pastor walked to me and said, if you say anything against guns here, you will not receive an offering. And I said, great. I'm not here for the offering. And if the Lord leads me to say something about guns, I'll say it. And really, I ended up ripping that discussion of the guns. But I get surprising thing, I got the largest offering from that church for the work we do. I went back and I told Pastor, I wanted to tell him, I told you so, but I told him, Pastor, I'm very sorry, because we need to talk about some things that will help rather than just comfort people and give them false hope. One of the things that has come to me very strongly from the book of the Gospels, there is Matthew 6, 33 that talks about seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. One of the things that I look at that, are we looking for God to be the means to get our miracles or get the answer, or we are going through the process knowing that God is the answer to everything we face? And his answers cannot be sometimes what we expected, but it will come. And thank God, while I was doing my study, I found some of the godly men who went through such situations. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, Apostle Paul talks about when he became a man that God touched and he was elevated. He became a man that God even was revealing some great revelations to him. He says in chapter 12, so that I cannot brag and be overconfident about the revelations that I was receiving, it was given to me a thorn in the flesh, something that was tormenting me, something that was buffeting me, something that was taking me off. It was given to me that I shouldn't continue boasting in the revelations I'm receiving, but this thing, I prayed about it and asked God, can you please take away from me? And God's answer was, no, I'm not taking it away from you. But, I looked at that situation and I said, maybe some of these situations people face and they pray about and they are not removed, or they are not answered the way they expect. Is it a situation where God is trying to put us in a position that we can become like Apostle Paul, so that we can say at the end of it that his grace is sufficient for everything that happens to us? He's still God. And I said, I think this is it. Whether I lose a loved one, whether there is no healing to my body, whether there is no offering being given to me for my preaching, I don't care, but I know that the grace of God will take me from point A to point B, and that day when it comes, that I'm laying in the coffin, and you guys are crying and sobbing and saying all good things. Michael was a great dude, like Pastor said, the man who walks with God. You say all those things. I'll be laying there knowing that I've done what the Father called me to do, and because it's my time to go back to him, I go joyfully without any worries. I release my loved one to go without any worries, knowing that he's going or she's going in the hands of God. And no matter what has happened, God will take care of me. In Ephesians 6, it talks about the spiritual warfare. Some of you are expecting, which scriptures? I'll throw all the scriptures at you. I was looking from Genesis to Revelation, man, trying to find what scripture fits all this message. I didn't find any. I just was bombarded by these references that are coming to me. In Ephesians, it talks about spiritual warfare. It tells us to put on the whole armor of God and to be prepared. But in 6:13, it says very powerful things. It says, put on the whole complete armor of God so that you might be able to stand the evil day. Having stand or having stood, you've done everything to stand. Stand therefore. Those are the exact words. You see the repetition of the word stand, stand, stand. I went back and did a research on the Greek and Hebrew for stand. Majority of it says it's just stand. Nothing too deep about it. Nothing too complicated. So regardless of what you are facing, stand. Some other translations say stand means perseverance. Others means having done everything you can possibly do, pay attention. Others say just keep standing. Keep doing what you are doing. As long as you know you are doing what God has called you to do, just forge ahead. Regardless of the evil forces or the storms or the calamities or anything that pushes you. And man, I tell you, being a missionary has exposed me to a lot of things that I didn't think can happen. There are times you know, today you are in a king's palace, you are spending a night there. Tomorrow you are in the streets in a slum. You are spending a night in the open space. It's like better even the camping we have in America. And yet, you still have to remain faithful as a servant of the living God. How can you do that? It's only by His grace. It's only by Him helping you and giving you the ability to stand no matter what happens to you. I go back to Kenya, those agents, you know, when you get to the airport and they are welcoming you, those in Kenya, they say to me, I usually show up and they say, passport. I pull out the Kenyan passport. I give to them. They say, welcome home. I come back to the States. I pull out the American passport. They're like, welcome home. See, I go both places. It's home. But for you, if you go to Kenya, you have to get a visa. And getting that visa, you can ask those who went, Pastor Kerry, they will tell you. Sometimes it's very painful to go through the process to find a visa. I don't have to go through that. I'm thankful because I know God has graced me to the position to whereby even at that point that I don't have to go through that hassle because He knows ahead of me I might encounter more challenges than just going through the airport. So He prepares each one of us. The answer to those answers or questions or problems that we don't have answers for, His grace. His grace is sufficient. However He brings that grace to you, He knows what is best for you. I don't. Your pastor doesn't know. The government doesn't know. Your parents might not even know. Your spouse might not know how to help you in a very difficult situation, but God knows. So He will give you the grace to the measure that is needed for you to go through that process. So what are you supposed to do? Keep standing, stand, do whatever it takes to look up to Him. I don't want to say He's the answer. Because some of you are like, if He's the answer, this is what I'm waiting for. I just want you to know God is still God, whatever happens to you. Whatever happens to your situation, whatever happens to your loved ones, whatever happens to even at the place of work, whether it's very good or not good, you have a co-worker you can't stand, He's still God. Yeah. Do you really want to be around that job? I don't know. There are times I've said to God, I don't think I'm cut out for this. You know what? I wait for His answer to tell me, man, if you don't want it, you can step out. He never tells me that. He goes silent, as if He's not there. He didn't even hear what I said. But then the next door opens, and I know God is speaking to me through this open door. So this is what He's telling me. I shouldn't give up. I shouldn't quit. I don't have to be cut out for this, but He knows what I need to get to the next step. So I just have to trust Him and continue to know that He's in control. That's going back to the Gospels. Because Jesus said He came so that we can have life and have it more abundantly. And He said He went about, even in Acts it says, He went about doing every good work, wherever He went. And so whatever we can do as Christians, wherever we go, wherever we are, all we have to do is do what we can to the measure we've been given the ability and the grace to accomplish what He wants us to do. You don't have to quit your job to become a pastor like Pastor Kerry. You can still be a pastor at your place of work. Maybe that's why he has you there. You don't have to quit your pastoring to become a missionary like Michael, because maybe you are not cut out for missionary. You are cut out for a different position. But whatever God has called you to do, He'll give you the ability to do it. And whether it doesn't look like the way you expected it to be, He knows. And even if it seems like He's ignoring you, not answering your questions, He's hearing you. He's listening. And if the answers don't look like what you expected, well, guess what? Even before we were born, Psalms 139 says what? In His book, they were written the days fashioned for us. Even though we were not living during those days, but He knew exactly where we will be doing, exactly what will befall us, what will be hindering us, what won't be hindering us. He knew all that. And even in that chapter it says, He's the one who formed you. Even the intricate parts of your body, He fitted them together in your mother's womb. He did it. Don't fear. Now that I've said that, don't fear saying, Michael said we can't be questioning God. No, you question Him. He will answer. It might be not the answer that you were looking for, but truly, He's still God, and He knows you. He knows each one of us. I'm thankful to hear of my brother Mike. He gave me a testimony. I followed on the Facebook. I didn't understand what exactly happened, but he shared to me. Some of you know. You see, things like that, those can be messages God is speaking to us. Maybe He was speaking through your mother-in-law, and you were like, this is my mother-in-love. We try to sugarcoat it. Instead of saying mother-in-law, we say mother-in-love, just to be friendly. Maybe it's God speaking through her. And we just have to pay attention and listen and know that He's guiding us and directing us. That's exactly what I have to tell you today. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. We are in this together, but above all, He's with us. Greater is He in us than the one in the world. Whatever we are facing, He has been there. He has done it. He knows. He has allowed it. Some of the things, it makes us just want to throw in the towel, but if we don't throw in the towel and stick with Him, we'll see the fruit of our endurance, or even that day, we'll see the grace that He extended towards us to become the people He wants us to be. He is a great God. He's a good God. He has never failed me, and I don't believe He will fail any of us. He is a faithful God.